Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons, where we work together to come up with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition builds for your favorite League of Legends champions. Today we're building Lissandra, the Ice Witch. Lissandra was one of 3 sisters, the others being Cyrilda and Avarosa. They had each tried to control a primordial source of power on Runeterra and were each punished for their attempt. Cyrilda lost her voice to the first twilight, Avarosa was deafened by the void, and Lissandra was blinded by the Volibear. Lissandra's sight may have been lost, but she was still able to enter the dreams of others, and through them she saw the void for what it truly was, full of potential. She bound herself and her sisters to the beings of the void known as the Watchers. The Watchers granted them near immortality, and the ability to withstand the numbing frost of the Freljord, creating the first of the Iceborn. Her sisters inevitably rebelled against the Watchers, and once they broke into the mortal world, Lissandra was forced to make a difficult choice: trap the Watchers and her sisters, or let Runeterra be annihilated. She chose the former, entombing them all in a glacial barrier of true ice that should never melt. Unfortunately, this was only a temporary solution, as the Watchers merely fell dormant, slowly corrupting the true ice around them. Lissandra now roams the Freljord, attempting to recruit as many Iceborn as she can to help delay the eventual return of the Watchers. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon who support us every month. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and our True Ice air conditioner running. If you like our videos and want to support the channel, come join us over on Patreon today for just $1 to get access to our awesome Discord community where we talk League and D&D all day long. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Hexblood. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max intelligence and dump strength. We're going with a single class this time around, so no multi-classing requirements are necessary. Our leveling path is going to be all 20 levels in Wizard. Lissandra's passive, Iceborn Subjugation, will come from Summon Elemental. Our Q, Ice Shard, is going to come from Ice Knife. Our W, Ring of Frost, comes from Reflavoring Web. Our E, Glacial Path, will come from Cone of Cold and Benign Transposition. And finally we get our ultimate, Frozen Tomb, from Reflavoring Force Cage. For race, we wanted to honor the Witch and Ice Witch with the Hexblood lineage from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. We're going to pick up a +2 to our intelligence and a +1 to our charisma. We gain 2 skill proficiencies as well, so we'll take survival and deception. 1 for our Freljordian constitution, and for the lies we tell our sisters about the Watchers. Hexbloods have 2 cool features: Eerie Token and Hex Magic. Eerie Token is going to let you imbue a piece of yourself with magic to give to another person to telepathically speak with them, or use the token as a Farsight ward. I would flavor this as chipping off a piece of true ice from your body. Hex Magic is going to give you the Hex and Disguise Self spells. Hex will give us an extra d6 necrotic damage on our Ice Knife spell, and Disguise Self can be used to change our appearance. For background, we're going with Haunted One, for what she had to do to her sisters to prevent the Watchers from destroying Runeterra. We'll get proficiencies in Arcana and Religion and the Heart of Darkness feature. People who look at you are going to recognize you've been through a horrible ordeal and will naturally endear you to them. For stats, we're going to toe the line like Lissandra did between her sisters and the Watchers with the standard array. This is a good one to roll on if you prefer that, because we have no multi-classing requirements. We'll start off with our intelligence at a 15 because of our plotting and manipulation. Constitution after that for our Freljord hardiness, and because we'll be diving right into the thick of things and need to be able to shrug off a hit or two. Charisma is next because of our need to persuade and intimidate more of the Iceborn to join our cause. Our dexterity is going to be our last above average score, since we'll have to be riding our little ice wave without falling on our butts. Then our wisdom is going to be average, and we'll dump strength. Alrighty, we don't have any important equipment to cover, so we'll jump right into the class level breakdown with the Wizard class. Wizards have a d6 hit die, so prepare to be a literal glass cannon. We'll gain proficiency in some silly weapons and history and insight. Arcane Recovery is going to let us recover spell slots at the end of a short rest once a day. Now normally we only multiclass a few levels in Wizard, so this feature doesn't end up being too important, but since we're a full Wizard, recovering 10 levels of spell slots in a short rest isn't something to scoff at. We'll also learn our first level spells and pick up our Q with the Ice Knife spell. We're going to conjure a shard of ice and yeet it at a creature, dealing 1d10 piercing damage on a hit. Regardless of the hit though, the target and everyone within 5 feet have to make a dex save or take 2d6 cold damage. By the end of this build, you're going to be able to chuck these every turn, which is going to be so much fun, and you'll have a ton of wave clear as well. Second level wizards choose their arcane tradition, which is just the magic school or style they want to devote themselves to studying. We're going to go with the School of Conjuration to make our passive ice zombie creatures a little thicker and to give us the benign transposition feature, which if you're a fan of the channel, you know I absolutely love. We'll gain 2 features right off the bat, Conjuration Savant and Minor Conjuration. Conjuration Savant is going to cut the time and cost of adding additional conjuration spells to your spellbook in half. Minor Conjuration is going to let you create a small non-magical object that'll exist for an hour and gives you 5 feet of dim light. Lots of roleplay potential with Minor Conjuration, so don't let it fly under your radar. Level 3 wizards learn second level spells. We're going to slightly reflavor web to be a mass of ice rather than sticky webbing. It'll fill a 20-foot cube, and any creature entering the ice or starting its turn in the ice has to make a dex save or be restrained in the ice until they break free with a strength check. Since the web spell has a vulnerability to fire just like ice normally does, this reflavoring ends up being pretty harmless, and your DM shouldn't really give you a hard time about it. 4th level wizards gain the first ability score improvement of the build. As always, we like to break down all of the choices here so you can pick and choose at your leisure. This is a feat heavy build, so brace yourself. At Wizard 4, we're going to round off our intelligence with the Shadow Touched feat. We'll get a free point of intelligence, the invisibility spell, and we'll choose the Cause Sphere spell to learn as well. At Wizard 8, we'll amplify our cold spells with Elemental Adept Cold. This will let our spells bypass cold resistance, which is a very common resistance unfortunately, and it'll let us take any 1s of our cold damage die and count them as a 2 instead. For Wizard 12, we're going to pick up the Meta Magic Adept feat for our E. We'll gain 2 sorcery points to be able to use the Quicken spell Meta Magic once per long rest. Quicken spell lets us cast full action spells as bonus actions ones instead. I'll explain the full combo for her E once we get to the Cone of Cold spell. At Wizard 16, we'll max our intelligence with 2 points. And finally, at Wizard 19, we'll take the Tough feat for 2 free hit points per character level. We were going to take Warcaster, but our change to Summon Elemental and the Focus Conjuration feature makes it kind of superfluous. 6th level Conjuration wizards learn Benign Transposition, which is an awesome feature that'll have us bouncing around all over the place. This feature lets you use your action to teleport anywhere within 30 feet, like a spell slot free Misty Step, once per long rest. You can also use this to swap positions with a willing creature. So for example, let's say you and your tank or the elemental summoned by your passive is off in the distance and you're ambushed. All you have to do is a quick swap-a-roo, and your would-be assassin is going to have a rough day. That's not even the best part though. The feature recharges every time you cast a conjuration spell that's not a cantrip. So if you take the Misty Step spell and are using it to flash around, or when we start summoning your passive, you're going to be able to zip around the map. Level 7 wizards learn 4th level spells. Time to pick up our passive with Summon Elemental. Now in the build stream, we had chosen Summon Undead because that felt a little more like how Lissandra raises these ice beings from a corpse. But if we go with the Elemental, we'll be using a Conjuration spell instead of a Necromancy one, which will let our Elemental take advantage of our Focus Conjuration and Durable Summons features. So, now that we explained why we went this route, what does it do? Well, we conjure an elemental spirit decked out in earth, air, fire, or water, shaped like a bipedal form, which could just take the shape of a humanoid you killed. I would ask your DM to let you flavor the earth elemental spirit as ice instead, since there won't be any functional difference. The elemental shares your initiative and takes its turn right after you as long as you issue a command to it during your turn as a free action. So just set it to mindlessly pursue and attack and have a ball. Level 9 wizards learn 5th level spells. So we'll get the final component of our E with Cone of Cold. Cone of Cold fires a blast of cold air from your hand, which could just as easily be sliding a claw of ice. Each creature that fails the Constitution save takes 8d8 cold damage. So the combo will work like this. We'll quicken spell the Cone of Cold, and then benign transposition ourselves somewhere along its path after it goes through. 10th level Conjuration wizards gain Focus Conjuration, which means our concentration cannot be broken from taking damage as long as we're concentrating on a conjuration spell. So our ice elemental won't be going away unless we want it to or someone shatters it. Level 13 wizards learn 7th level spells. We're going to pick up our ultimate with the Force Cage spell. Rather than an invisible barrier force though, we're going to use this as a Tomb of Ice, trapping anyone inside the 10-foot cube. Remember, anyone inside can attempt to teleport out, but they have to succeed on a charisma save. Also, you can use Benign Transposition and Quicken Force Cage as a flash ult combo, which would also be pretty sick. 14th level Conjuration Wizards pick up Durable Summons, which is going to bolster our passive Ice Elemental with 30 temporary hit points. 30 free hit points can definitely be the difference between your Elemental shrugging off a hit or becoming a snow cone, so try to keep this feature in mind. 18th level Wizards learn Spell Mastery, which is going to let us spam Ice Knife and Web every single turn. This feature is cool because it removes the spell slot requirement for a single first and second level spell, but at the same time we're going to have to cast them at their base level, and at this point in the game cantrips are going to outscale their damage pretty easily, so you'll be taking a hit to your potential damage, but the flavor is absolutely on point. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. Though we had to reflavor a few things, I think this build is going to be a lot of fun, especially with the concept of keeping your Ice Elemental around longer than you do in-game, where it essentially just kamikazes itself. I also think being able to spam your Q and W has a lot of fun roleplay potential, even if they end up being disappointment in the damage department. Now the bad. Even with the tough feat, we're going to be fairly squishy with all these levels in Wizard. I also would have liked to have some levels in Sorcerer, but I think the Q spam was far more important here, and only taking 2 levels in Sorcerer wasn't going to give us more than the feat we took did. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in this build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a few awesome rewards, and you get access to our great Discord community. We plan on turning out one League Champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.